Hey, it's Jack Maxwell. Welcome to the High Road Live Q&A. At the top of the hour, there'll be an actual segment called The High Road. These are mini episodes that we release every Friday night at the same time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And it's about my journey across the United States and stories from people who have benefited some way through cannabis, whether it's economically, politically, socially, and most of all, you'll see, medicinally. That's how the show started. Hello, says Amy Hull. Hey, friend, Kelly. Thank you. Hey, friend, to you too. Hi, Jack. Happy Friday. Amy, only 84. Hello to you. Happy Friday, Amy. And everyone else. Peter Harris. Wash hands, wash hands, wash hands. Hello, Jack. Okay. And wear a mask, but I'm by myself, so I don't have to do that. Let's stay safe, everybody. We want to do this and be around for a long time. The world is going to get better. I'm sure of it. So going across the country, talking to people who discovered cannabis helped them in one way or the other. And we cover everything, actually. But again, mostly medicinally. That was my journey. I went through cancer and chemo and had some problems. And I was recommended some CBD and medicinal THC. And it worked like a charm. It worked really great. So with that in mind, we do this show called The High Road to show you there's a better way. It's no infomercial or commercial. I know that at times, maybe you might think that's it, but I'm just so passionate about this because it helps so many people. And I think other people ought to know because there's so many people still against it. For what reason, I don't know, especially CBD. Amy Six, looking forward to the show. Well, thank you, Amy. Nathaniel Lawrence. Hey, Jack, hope your evening is great. Love spending time with you. Always making my day so much brighter. Hugs. Hugs with asterisk. That's right, hugs, because we can't do that in this society right now unless you're living with people, of course. And again, it's all about staying safe. We'll be able to do it again. So, hi, Jack. We have a mutual friend and a cannabis success. So why don't you write to me privately, Perry, and we'll talk about that. You can always DM me. You can follow me at Southie Jack on Twitter and Instagram. That's SOUTHIE right there. The camera's backwards, so I can do the other hand. Anyways, right there on Twitter and Instagram, and this face on Facebook, I guess. So because most of the people I met across the United States benefited medicinally from cannabis, although there are other benefits, of course, like I said. We brought on a doctor the very first episode, and I interviewed her about her involvement with CBD. You don't often see doctors, medical doctors, really tout CBD and THC. So with this one, and she was my pain doctor, she was one of the ones who recommended CBD to me. And she was a very popular. So we had her on last week. And people said, I got a bunch of messages. Why don't you bring her back? So back by popular demand, as they say. Here is Dr. Monica Torres. Hi, Doc. What's up?
Hi.
Or is it the other way around? Is it what's up, Doc? Thanks for joining us again.
I'm happy to be here. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm going to drop a little bomb on you. I hope you don't mind.
Uh-oh.
We follow each other on social media. Well, it was a long, big story about all of that. But this doc here competed in a plank challenge. You know what I'm going to say?
How embarrassing.
Bring that up. Bring that up, Yusuf. Look at that.
Oh, my goodness.
That was some kind of contest. And I think the contest is over. Pretty cool picture. I know because you're my doctor that you're into physical fitness, etc. But what would motivate you to do something? I think it's great, by the way. Planks are so hard for me. I should do more of them. So you're going to motivate me to do more. But why did you get into this contest?
You know, that's a good question. I was just on social media and I ran across this page called @FillInThePlank, and I really liked their message, which is planks are very healthy for you. It's a good form of core strengthening, and they promote other people to do planks. And they had a plank challenge, and you had to balance something on your head while doing a reverse plank. And I thought it was a good idea to actually try, and I did. I was able to balance a cup with a rose on my head. And I also want to thank everyone for voting for me. Thank you so much for your support, Jack. I really appreciate it. I don't know who won yet, but I really appreciate all the comments and the likes. It really warmed my heart to see so many people supporting my plank challenge.
Yeah, I know you got a lot of love on that, and I'm happy to do that. As you know, I retweet and repost a lot of things that I believe in, or friends, even if I don't necessarily, if I'm not behind that thing they're doing 100%, it's still because they're my friends. I'm happy to help the cause. So I hope you won it when push comes to shove and they have the results. I hope you won, but in any event, good for you for motivating people to exercise more and to get in shape. So, and I know again, because you were an advocate early on for CBD and medicinal THC. And of course, now you you're into exercise and you motivate people that way. What I'm trying to say is, it seems to me your approach to helping people to make them well, in whatever way you want to define that, is more of a holistic approach. And I hate to use that term because people think granola when you think holistic, or some kind of herbal drops or something like that. But you look at the whole picture, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong. And I wish more doctors would do that.
I think it's catching on, though. I mean, a lot of my colleagues feel the same way I do. There are some physicians that, don't have the time because of, I hate to say it, and I hate to talk negatively about the medical community, but insurance drives the length of appointments, visits with each patient. So some doctors just don't have the time because they have to meet quotas, and they have, to address the problem, make sure that the patient feels heard, get a diagnosis, get a treatment plan, and move on to the next. And, I try really hard within the confines of that to talk about diet, talk about nutrition, talk about exercise, because all of that is so important in the overall health, especially with dealing with pain. I have a lot of patients who have a very poor diet, eat high inflammatory foods, are pain throughout their joints, and they're wondering why. They're wondering why they're in so much pain.
Yeah, I was in a lot of pain from chemo, but I suppose my diet could be better and my exercise regimen and everything else. So thank you. Listen, before we get to
better.
What's that?
We all could be better. I'm not
I could be a lot better. Anyway, I'm doing this other thing called the 25 push-ups for 25 days challenge. So to raise awareness for mental health. So hopefully that'll help me physically a little bit, as well as bring
I think that's great.
Bring a spotlight on something that I think is underappreciated, and that is, of course, people with mental health issues. Before we get to some questions, which is why we have you back, we had so many questions for you, a backlog of them. And if you want to ask Dr. Torres some questions now, get on here and just type it in, and my producer, Yusuf, will send them over. I do want to say at the top of the hour, we go to Denver. On social media, I call it a bud and breakfast. That's because the owners do. And it's this really cool house in Denver, a consumption house, if you will, because consumption lounges at the time, and we just filmed it last year, they were illegal. And so this was a way around that. But it was a really nice, it's called Lux Retreat. And it was interesting. And that's going to happen right at the top of the hour. You'll have to click, though. This won't go into that. So you'll have to find this icon wherever you're watching this, either on Facebook or YouTube, and click on this right at the top of the hour, and you'll have the show. It's right there. And then, of course, you can comment during the show, and I'll comment back. I can answer some questions. The doc will leave us, though, so if you have questions for her now, let's have them. Why don't you bring up one of those, Yusuf, if you can? Jim Stravinskis, do all CBD products require prescriptions? And do doctors need any special education or training in CBD products?
Well, not all CBD products require a prescription, and that all depends on the percentage of THC in the CBD product. So because of the hemp bill in 2018, any CBD product that has less than 0.3% THC is legal and does not require prescription or a medical evaluation. But anything above that, so anything greater than 0.3% THC, does require a medical evaluation or a medical marijuana card. Some states, such as California, THC or marijuana is legal for adult use, meaning you don't even need a medical marijuana card or have a medical evaluation to use it. So I hope that answers your question for that first part. And the second, as far as training, I think that, well, it's been over 10 years since I graduated from medical school. So we didn't really learn that much about the endocannabinoid system, nor, cannabis wasn't something that we were educated on as far as its benefits, negative or positive. So I'd like to say that now I think the resources are there for education. As far as myself, it's self-education, as well as I belong to the Society of Cannabis Clinicians, that so it's a nonprofit organization that helps support research and education regarding cannabis to healthcare professionals. So they have an online course that healthcare professionals can take and actually get continuing medical education for that. And I think that's a wonderful way to start. And having discussions like this is also really good. So I would turn to that society to look for a practitioner if you're looking for someone that knows about cannabis and that will give you some direction about using CBD or cannabis products.
That's great. And that's why we do them, because we'd like to inform as well. You can get great, valuable information from a lot of different sources. And that's why we're here. Let me go bring you back to that first question, though.
Okay.
Can it even be called CBD if it has more than 3.3% THC? Because Jim was asking about specifically CBD products. So if it has more than 0.3%, it has to be called THC, does it not?
Well, there are ratios of CBD to THC. So I would say that it's a cannabis product because hemp is cannabis, marijuana is cannabis. It all comes from the cannabis plant, and the only distinction is the percentage of THC. So CBD in itself is just a component of the cannabis plant, and it can have some varying percentages of THC. So what is legal is 0.3% THC, less than that. Were you going to say something, Jack?
No. I was just going to say that's a good point, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about the terms. What used to be called marijuana is still in some circles, but mostly cannabis. I was just told recently that hemp-derived CBD, we're going to call it CBD or hemp-derived CBD.
Okay.
And if it has more than 0.3% THC, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, so to speak, then it's just called cannabis now, not marijuana. My understanding was cannabis produced both of those, hemp and marijuana. So I think they're moving away from that term marijuana, which was invented for racist and economic purposes, to obviously to scare people and to make money, or to keep the money away from that industry, which was too bad. But that's a whole other episode. Okay, you ready for another question?
Well, I would like to say that I don't like to use the term marijuana. Because of what it meant for so many years. And I like to use the word cannabis and CBD dominant or THC dominant products. So that's my distinction. And, I think you're onto something that, yes, hemp is cannabis and marijuana is cannabis. And I think we need to standardize how we speak on this.
Yeah, that'd be nice. We can't agree on anything these days, though. As a society, it seems. Okay, another question. Yusuf, what do you say? Teresa says, if a person experiencing pain did not see a doctor and did not go see a doctor and took CBD for pain, self-medicated, could it mask a more serious issue? That's a good question. What do you say, Doc?
I would say yes. And when it comes to pain management, because that's my specialty, I always like to find the root cause of pain. That's the point of, finding the appropriate treatment for it. Many times I see patients for low back pain. That's like the most common complaint that I see. And, I order an MRI of the lumbar spine to start. And, everyone has degenerative disc disease. That's common. That's a normal part of aging. And I'm shocked when it's completely normal and there's no sign of degeneration. But, I expect to see some degenerative disc disease, but I'm always shocked to see, metastases, tumors as a source of back pain. So it's always a good idea to get an evaluation by a doctor before self-medicating, because you don't even know what is causing your pain, and it could be a sign of a serious illness.
Very good. Thank you for that. Another question. Here we go. Let's get them in this time. I know we didn't last time. Apologies for all those who asked questions that went unanswered. It's my fault, not the doc's. Mari Marcello, if you have heart issues, would consuming marijuana be dangerous?
Potentially. So at very high doses, THC has a dose-dependent response to heart rate and blood pressure. And it's acute, meaning it's very sudden onset. So the case reports that I read regarding this issue of blood pressure and heart rate, it's on very high doses of THC. And the case reports were done on chronic cannabis recreational users, which means it's not regulated. And these were patients that habitually used cannabis. And what we know about cannabis is that you can also develop tolerance the more you use it, more frequently you use it, which requires higher doses to achieve the same effect, which in turn would cause some negative consequences. So I would like to point out that there was one case report in a 17-year-old chronic habitual cannabis user, and this was back in 2007, that had a heart attack. And they perfectly normal, healthy 17-year-old, but all they could say was that it was likely related to cannabis. But this gentleman was using it every day, high doses. So with anybody just starting to use any cannabis products, always start low, and of course see your doctor. Make sure you get a thorough workup for any heart-related issues, and just have an honest discussion with your doctor about your curiosity about it and if it's safe to use.
Yeah, it's funny. Teenagers think they're invincible, or young people. I know that I don't know if I did when I was that age, but maybe more so than now anyway. But you hear stories all the time of someone slamming 4, 5, 6, 7 cans of energy drink, then having a heart attack at such a young age. So as always, be careful about what you put in your body. It's your temple after all, right?
Yes. I'd also like to say one more thing, that
Sure.
in patients that are older, 60 years of age and older, they're more likely to have an arrhythmia, what we call atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular heartbeat that's undiagnosed. So it can just happen at any time. So it's always good to, get your yearly checkups, get an EKG, and, make sure that your heart is working great.
As always, without it, we're no good, right?
Yes.
What made you such a fan of the research part or the medicinal part of CBD and THC? I don't want to say that the wrong way, because then people will think, yeah, a doctor who's a stoner, which I'm sure there are plenty. I know that's not you, but what opened your eyes to the possibilities of that?
It's really my patients. My patients opened my eyes to the possibility of an option to treat pain. It started with one particular patient that I saw years ago that came to me after taking high-dose opiates for many years, and she, on her own, decided to try medical marijuana for her pain. And she was able to stop all of her opiate medication.
All of it?
Yes, just use cannabis for pain. And now every day I'm hearing from my patients that more and more people are using it, and they're turning to CBD because opiates can only reduce your pain by a certain percentage, and the study showed 30%. So for patients that are taking opiates, they feel that that's the only thing for them. but there's so many other options. There's so many other medications that can be used and on top of CBD. And it breaks my heart when I see patients that have been on opiates taking opiate medication every month. They come in for their refills and their pain is still an 8 out of 10. And, 0 being no pain, 10 being the worst pain possible. It breaks my heart that they're still living with an 8 out of 10, still taking opiates and not getting the relief that they need. So I wanted to find another option, a healthier option, a safe option. And I, would always prefer, if I talk to a certain patient, I always prefer them using CBD products that have less than 0.3% THC. And of course, I always have to look at their medications because there are drug interactions. So if they're on Coumadin, the CBD is going to affect the Coumadin levels and actually increase bleeding, the risk of bleeding. And that's why it's always so important to talk to your doctor before starting CBD, because you don't know what drug interactions can happen.
Sure.
And I want everyone to be safe.
Sure. And for those who don't know, Coumadin is a blood thinner, and a lot of people are on that anti-clotting medication, I guess, right?
Yes.
Did I say that okay? Because I'm no doctor. She is. Now, I know you're such a fan of CBD and or an alternate, and right now it seems like a very clear alternate to opiates, that you were even writing a book. I'm going to ask you about that after we take one more question. What is the difference between hemp derivative CBDs and cannabis? Again, that's the wording, but I'll let you tackle that. Thanks, Greg.
Yes. So hemp is cannabis that inherently has less than 0.3% THC. And the CBD that's derived from hemp, you require a lot of hemp to get the amount of CBD that is essential for a product. So it's not very efficient, but some growers of cannabis have become really savvy that they actually have cannabis that has been cultivated to have less than 0.3% THC. And it's not hemp, but which again is confusing in itself, but it's a strain of cannabis that is actually easier to extract the CBD. And I always recommend full spectrum, whole plant therapy because there's an entourage effect, meaning those different components actually are more effective together than if they're isolated.
What does that mean, whole plant, and how does someone find that?
So it'll say full spectrum on the label, and that means that they use the all of the plant compounds or phytocannabinoids, because it's not just CBD. There's so many other different cannabinoids that are helpful and are effective.
Do you believe that combination of CBD and THC works even better, or do you stop at that border?
Depends on the condition. I always recommend starting with just CBD that has less than 0.3% THC because it has minimal to no side effects. And in certain conditions, such as spasticity with MS, you would need a little higher THC concentration to get some benefit. So it just depends on the medical condition.
Okay, thank you. Let's take another question. Peter Harris, is it possible to have an allergic reaction to CBD products if you have seasonal allergies?
Well, I think it's possible to have an allergic reaction to anything, even without seasonal allergies. It can happen at any point, at any time, to anything. It can even happen to something that you eat every day. So yes, it is possible to have an allergic reaction.
Okay, one more, and then we'll talk about your book. Chris Kurzer. Hey, Chris, if you start CBD or cannabis, will it be lifelong? Do you mean addicted, Chris? Maybe you can follow up with that. Or do you mean that you can use it lifelong? Because I know opiates are short term. That's a little confusing. Doc, what do you think it means?
I'd like to answer it.
Sure.
Not everybody plans on being on opiate therapy lifelong, but sometimes in certain chronic pain conditions, it's a chronic pain syndrome and it's unlikely to get better. So patients are hopeful that they're only going to take opiates for a short period of time, but it ends up being lifelong. As with CBD, since I'm writing a book, I've interviewed several people who have used CBD products, and some of them use it for their chronic conditions such as MS. And I, in particular, interviewed a patient with anxiety and took it for just a couple of months, stopped taking it, and the anxiety did not come back. So I believe, just like in our own bodies, the endocannabinoid system, it releases endocannabinoids in times of injury or stress, and then within seconds, it's removed. So I feel that they serve its purpose in acute situations only, acute medical conditions or acute pain. So it does its job, and then I don't feel that you would need it lifelong in those conditions. But how are we to know if the patient will need it lifelong? We don't. But it's trial and error. Basically, you experiment. So if you've been on CBD for anxiety for a long time, let's see tapering it down, not using it for a while, and see how you feel. You may not be dependent on it.
Yeah, Chris just wrote back and said, not addicted, just lifelong use or need of that. Thank you, Chris, and thanks for the answer, Doc. Tell us more about the book. What's it called?
Well, I keep changing the book title. As of right now, I'm leaning towards Healing with CBD.
Healing with CBD. Yes. Well, I mean, that sounds like what it is you're talking about. What are the other options?
Well, as far as, the other book title options, is that what you mean? CBD Heals. I would like to hear some suggestions from your followers.
Yeah, let's do that for the next couple of minutes. What do you think Dr. Torres should call her book, now that you know her a little bit from what you're talking about and how she answers questions? By the way, it sounds like you're stuck on the CBD part of it, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But again, you do recommend THC in certain circumstances, whatever it takes to heal. And it's certainly better than opiates. Yes. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like that's your position.
My position is I want what's best for the patient. And if the patient doesn't have any contraindications, then
what's a contraindication? What is that? What's a contraindication?
Something that's not recommended because it may cause harm.
Like, give us an example.
So in the case...
It hurts when I do this? Is that a contraindication? Or are you talking about substances?
Substances.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And now I forgot the question. Thanks, Jack. The truths about CBD. CBD miracle. I like that. CBD miracle molecule. Thank
Good
you.
Stuff, Kimberly Ray. Thank you. Chris Kurza, CBD, Unknown Truths. Oh, we got some creative people out there. CBD. Healing Revolution, says Susan Stanford. Wow, we got some good ones. I like healing with CBD. Thank you, Amy. The Healing Truths of CBD, Amy Seeks. Wow. You're going to have to pay somebody. They're coming up with some great titles. Fantastic. Well,
I appreciate the support.
We got a couple of minutes. Maybe we could take a short, quick question or some more book titles. Yusuf, what do you think? Yusuf's our producer. And Yusuf, come on and say hi for a second here.
Hey, guys.
That's you. He's helping us out. As you know, it's normally Ken. Ken's on vacation. Yusuf stepping in. Great job. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So what do we got, Yusuf? Titles or questions? What do you want to do? How do you want to go out with this? In your words, what's the number one misunderstanding of CBD, hemp, and what understanding do you want to leave people with? We got less than a minute, Doc.
The misunderstanding of CBD. Well, it's not a cure-all. I don't want people to think that this is a one-size-fits-all, that if they take it, they're going to get better. I think that in certain conditions, you need multiple treatment modalities to feel better. So it's about nutrition, it's about exercise, it's about the mind-body connection, and I think CBD is a good adjunctive therapy or good addition to overall health.
Okay, thank you for that. I know that question was directed to me. I'll answer that next time on the show. How about that? Let's let you know where we can get a hold of Dr. Torres. If you want to, follow Monica Torres MD on Instagram. There you go. And best of luck with the book. Will you come back again? This has been very informative.
Yes, I will.
Thanks, Doc. And everyone else, you want to see the episode? It's coming right now. It's called Lux Retreat, where we go. And this is the thumbnail you have to click. Yusuf, can you show them? Right there. Click on that, either on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching this, and you get the episode. and the interview that is attached. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Cheers.